To the extent that you are not maximizing your equity and inclusion efforts, you are limiting your creativity, your productivity, and your revenue. If you were raised in the South, it's likely you kept your ketchup in the cupboard. If you were raised in the North, it's more common that you kept it in the fridge. If you've run out of ketchup and your recipe calls for it, the place that you go to look for that ingredient most heavily influences the ingredient that you will choose to substitute. Are you going to pick vinegar, mayo, canned tomatoes? Now, I understand that this seems trivial when we're talking about recipes, but I guarantee you it's less trivial when we're talking about your business solutions. You limit your options when you start to limit the perspectives. Diverse perspectives always lead to better solutions and better outcomes. I'm the only white kid in my family. About a year and a half after Dr. King was killed, my parents started adopting mixed race kids. Now understand, this doesn't give me some kind of get out of racism free card. It's just a different lens than the one you might have had growing up. When we were growing up, we were raised in Texas. And it's interesting to look back now and think about the way that sexism and racism intertwined in our interactions. So when grown-ups would approach us, they had to figure out who to address. Now understand, I look like the odd one out here. And they'd most often pick my brother over my older sister or me. But my brother had developmental disabilities, and he had some social anxiety. From a young age, my sister and I would argue over who would get to order for him at restaurants. So he was never gonna be the one who stepped up and addressed the grown-ups or took charge of that conversation. And they didn't know that, just as my sister and I didn't know that by co-opting the conversation, we were further leading to his disempowerment. In college, I was surprised by the fact that the person I fell in love with happened to be a woman. I didn't come out to my parents for almost 3 years. And I didn't because I knew they wouldn't welcome the news that I was gay. Even though they'd marched for my siblings' civil rights, even though they'd had family members who disowned them for whom they chose to love. All of us are contradictions. None of us are the best of our choices or the worst of our choices. Our internal beliefs all influence our actions. Some of those things we're in touch with and fully aware of, and some of those are unconscious and hidden and not surfaced or known by us. Why am I telling you all of this? Well, I'm telling you all of this because I think we've all had these experiences, the ones where we have been included, the ones where we have been excluded. Just as I have stepped up, I have stepped in it. I have been oppressed, and I have been the oppressor. And I'm telling you these things because I want to jumpstart these conversations, because I believe that when we are brave and truthful about the circumstances of our own lives, we give others permission to do the same. And part of this work, much of this work, is about making room for, surfacing, highlighting the conversations and the voices that have not been heard, and listening at every level of our organization. Women did not get the right to vote because women suddenly got powerful. Women got the right to vote because enough men, enough husbands, brothers, fathers, and sons decided it was time for women to have the right to vote. It's these tipping points in awareness where people with power and privilege decide that it's time to extend those opportunities to others who haven't had it. Putting these steps into practice, we can create environments where inclusion is not just lip service or relegated to one person's position. It is the responsibility of everyone. And in so doing, we can build a workplace that is strong, resilient, welcoming, where there are a lot of options, even if there isn't any catch-up, where creativity, the bottom line, and people can flourish.